Thank you so much for being here. I welcome you all to Healthy Markets Community of Practice, organized by PSI Pakistan and Pathfinders International in collaboration with USAID, Chemonics International, and UNFPA. I would like to call upon Aisha Lagari to give you all a welcome note and provide objectives of the meeting, please.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much to each and every one of you for attending our event today. A little bit of a background for some of the people who may not be very aware of Impact Hub. Impact Hub is a private sector working group that was formed around in 2018-19 in collaboration with some organizations which are all over here. And the objective of Impact Hub was essentially for us to be able to bring in private sector together, where we could look at private sector's engagement in family planning from a market facilitation and market growth perspective. This is an opportunity where we get to take off our company hats, be a little bit agnostic, and look at how can we contribute in this space to make sure that women in Pakistan get the right choices that they deserve. This Impact Hub has been a collective effort of many of the organizations who are here. If I start naming and I forget some, so I'm going to refrain from that. But thank you to all of those organizations, all of the members of Impact Hub as well. One of the objectives, I think, through this event today, which has been brought in by FHM, Pathfinder, Chemonics, is a true example of how a platform that is formed for market growth, for market development should be used. Last time, I remember the last Impact Hub meeting that we had, Risk Consulting had brought in their resources to support Impact Hub, and to be able, where we wanted to talk about how do we bring in DMPSC, SINA Press into Pakistan through private sector. Today, like as I mentioned, FHM has picked up this platform and has brought in everyone together to see what can we do collectively and how can we make private sector play a greater role in family planning in Pakistan. Our population, 240 million is what we are supposed to say. It is more than that, we all know that. Is a very alarming situation. And something that we are doing is not right. And there are some things that we are doing work. But what we need to collectively look at is what are those things that are working, how can we amplify those things, and what are those things that we have been doing that we need to change collectively, agnostically, looking at the market as a whole and how we can facilitate and shape that. I also say this in many of the meetings that I attend and participate in. Population issue in Pakistan is a crisis. It's the biggest crisis that the country is going through, which is linked with multiple areas. It has an impact on our country beyond just the health. And we need to make sure that we, the advocates of family planning, we, the advocates of women in Pakistan who want to make sure that women in Pakistan have healthy choices, keep on raising this voice, not in a passive manner, but rather in an aggressive manner. We need that, sort of aggression and energy. Thank you for that. So with that, I welcome you all, and I really, really hope that we are able to have very good discussion. We've tried to keep the agenda a little bit different, where we are bringing in different perspectives of players and stakeholders within family planning. I want to give a special shout out and thanks to a few members who have joined us today. Most of you are already are members of Impact Hub, तो आपकी तो घर की बात है. But those who are new, I want to really give a shout out to that. I'm really glad ZAFA Pharmaceuticals is here today. They are a very big player in Pakistan from private sector perspective. I'm really glad to see SINA and Ambreen being here. They are working in primary healthcare, and there is a need to integrate family planning into those, primary healthcare as well. I'm happy to see IQVIA over here as well. They are the data scientists over here. They have the pulse on everything that we do. They are here. It is important for them to see what our qualitative challenges are. And the presentations that you're going to see today are going to be very different, hopefully, inshallah. They're going to bring in a different perspective and flavor. We do have Eamon, who is from Interflow, and I'm really thankful for Eamon to come in as well, because we felt that when you're looking at a market, one of the most important, there are two sides of a market, demand and supply, right? And oftentimes we, as community of practice, are talking about the supply side. It is important to hear a perspective from those who work in the demand side, not necessarily only in family planning, but for other commercial products as well, that have now become, that have moved from our wants to needs. So let's hear from them today as well, to see how they work in other areas and what are some of those learnings that we can adopt. So I'm really excited about the agenda today, and with that, I'm going to pass it back to Shabano. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Aisha. Moving on, I would like to invite Dr. Yasmin Kazi, Senior Country Advisor on FP and MNCH to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, to shed light on the FP market challenges that are faced in Sindh, and to highlight existing gaps and opportunities in the market.
First of all, thank you, Impact Hub, for always relying on me to set the context. I hope I will do that. But thanks to Aisha, who has already done part of my job. So, and I was just telling, when I walked into the room, looking at Impact Hub and everything, that how satisfied I feel about a conversation that I had a few years back with Aisha, and we stepped on this journey. It's great to see how Impact Hub is trying to, capture the larger landscape and prove the word that we initially thought it would be, although at that time, nothing was clear. So with that, let's come to what I'm going to be talking today. And this is about healthy markets community of practice. This might be a new word, healthy markets. I mean, for me, when I heard first, of course, the jargons are different, and the explanation is different, but it very much basically remains the similar kind of ethos that we see in the family planning and reproductive health field. And this is a community of practice of healthy markets for family planning. So it's going to be important from that perspective. So when we say healthy markets, we are referring to the health products that are affordable, accessible, and acceptable. So these are all things that we look at the market products for the intended users, which are mostly women. Family planning contraceptives are largely based on the women methods, although we are trying in the larger contraceptive technology world to see how we can balance it with more male methods. Right now, there is a very limited success. So it's largely depending on women. And then, of course, the supply and the delivery of health market is supposedly high quality. Because we know in our world, in the family planning world, as I always say when people ask me, can you summarize why we have not been able to move the needle? It's very simple. Because there are two larger issues if we look at why we haven't been able to. One is the supply and one is the quality. Now, of course, demand and demand creation and responding to demand is coming. So where there is a supply, there is a quality issue. And when there is no supply, of course, it means access is an issue. But the idea, I think Aisha has already said, but I just want to reinforce that when we get collected here as private sector players, we are trying to look at the market and trying to understand what is in the market that we can really stimulate. We know that commercial market does it very well. They have this excellent promos and TVCs and kind of taglines and things that get so much attracted and that draw in so much consumer. We haven't been able to do that, except for "Do Bacche Hi Achhe," which was a slogan that got a lot of popularity. It still stays with people's mind. We haven't been able to come up with a kind of a tagline that would resonate with most of the people. So we are going to look at here collectively, and we are hoping to hear from the market shapers and influencers who are in the room, and then we can see that how as a field, how as a community of practice, we can change things in a way that will bridge the gap that we are identifying. So the one thing that I want to reinforce before I go to my next slide is that it has to be efficient, it has to be all those things that we need. It should be tailor-made, it has to be women-centric. So of course person-centric, but it has to be women-centric, because family planning is all about women-led care. So she has to be at the center of the care. So whatever we do, whatever we come up, has to keep that in mind. And do we know enough? Are we hearing to the women? Do we know their voices? Do we know what they want? Do we know what they don't want? So I think that kind of a questions will help us to understand where do we move forward. So let's see, we'll move to the next slide and try to see what the status is and what are the few things. And I want to thank Zahir, I want to thank FHM, I want to thank Pathfinder for the extensive research that they have done to come up, and for his help in these slides. So thank you so much, Zahir. I want to thank you in the beginning, not in the end. So changing the norms. Pakistan has made this global FP 2030 commitments, and this is Government of Pakistan pledges to the global community, in which they have done it with all their counterparts. The national FP 2030 commitments has reflection from all the 4 provinces. So this is SIN, because we are currently looking at SIN market, and it's going to be about SIN. So if we look where we are, so before making 2030 commitments, there was a global FP 2020 movement, which was the largest movement in the history of family planning to change the landscape. And at that point, all the commitments for increasing the CPR, MCPR that were made, we were not able to meet it. So when 2020 finishes, and it's not only Pakistan, several countries, many countries were not able to do it, because the target settings are always ambitious, and if they are not matched by the actions, then you fail apart. So right now, just to let those people know who don't know, currently our CPR in Sindh is 30%, which is very low. The Sindh government has made a commitment to raise it to 47% by 2025, which is like round the corner, and then 57% by end of 2030. Another very ambitious targets that they have set themselves for. And we as private sector, of course, are working with them to see how much we are able to help them or assist them or make that shifts that is required. If we look at can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah. So if we look at the current trends in Sindh, you will see that since the last, even before PDHS, which was done, PDHS is Pakistan Demographic Health Survey, which is done every 5 years, and it is to measure how much progress has been made on fertility indicators. But we have seen that in Sindh, since 2006 and 7, and very slight shift in the next PDHS, which was 2017-18, it's really stagnant, things are not moving, which was a big red flag for everyone. And this shows that, it's flat, it shouldn't be flat, it should be going up. So what can we do to change that flat line, and how those curves can be made? I think government is realizing now, this is a private sector, so we don't have government representative, but we have many forums in which all of the private sector people who are here, except for the commercial sector, they're part of the Government of Sindh forums on FP 2030 and others. And we know that government is very committed, they want to do it. The how part is missing. And the biggest how part, and I keep on saying that, and everybody say that, I say it like a broken record, you can't do it without private sector. if you really want to increase access, if you want to increase quality, then please work with the private sector. And then, so let's see what we can do in the next 3 years. Sorry, I will not even look at 2025. In the next 7 years, we are looking at 2030 at the moment. So if you look at this slide, this is my favorite slide because, you look at this slide and you trying to understand who the market is serving, and then you compare it to who the market is failing. So who is being served and who is being not served, and we are failing them. So if you look at the number of married women of reproductive age, I will not say even married women here, but this is the way that our PDHS is done. And we look at the census and we try to take out MAVRA, which we call in a common jargon. We have 4.7 million women who are currently in need of contraception. And out of those, the 1.3 million are those who do not want any more children, but they are not practicing contraception or they are not practicing family planning. So in our jargon, it is known as unmet need, that they have a need, but we are not able to bridge that need. And these are the current user, 2.4 million. So you see less than half of those who should be using contraception are not using because of several reasons, and I'll come to that in a minute. This is also very important, who the market is failing. And sometimes this, as you will see in the first box, it is not just failing, it is the one that are not being counted or that are not visible. So if you look at 3.1 million of those who use contraceptions at some point or other, but because they are not married, they are not counted. So mostly these are the young people. And I'll sit in PDHS technical advisory group for several years, and I know that this is one of the things, my battle. Can we have, like all other countries, women of reproductive age, full stop, whether they're married or not married? Because when we are doing a survey, when we are estimating, why should we go? But no, this is Pakistan, the young people are not sexually active here, you can't do that. So that's the kind of a standard statement that I hear. In other countries, it's WRA, women of reproductive age, full stop. But in Pakistan, it is MWRA, because married women of and only those are counted. So we are failing those for both information sharing, supply, counting, looking in the data. These are those people who are actually should be counted. And then this 1 million number are those, and if you want to challenge any number, please catch Zahir. None of it is my doing, but he has done a very good review of the PDHS data. So 1 million are those who do not intend to use family planning for XYZ reason. So they say, no, we don't want to use. And this 0.7 million, and this is a very big gray area in our field. These are the women who accepts a method, and I'm saying women, sorry, because I know condom is the highest user, so it's not that it's only women, but I'm just saying women because they are most of the methods are used by women. So these are the ones who accepts a method, but they discontinue it pretty quickly, even before they make any impact or any change in the indicators, in the fertility indicators. This shows the lack of quality, and this shows where we are lacking. And this is again, we are failing the market because we are not able to support those women who really want to use, and they're just getting dropped off. Usually it's because of side effects. The other important thing is that if you look at 1.3 billion, those who intend to use and who are not using, which I'm calling unmet need, and 1 million who do not intend to use, they may not want more children, but they don't want to use contraceptive. These are very high likely those women who will undergo induced abortion in Pakistan. For those of you who don't know, Pakistan has one of the highest induced abortion cases. So when there is an argument about family planning, cannot be promoted because of religion, this is the strong evidence to show that women are undergoing abortion because they are not able to manage their fertility through contraception. And there's a very high chances, and that's why we have, there is a recent re-estimate of induced abortion study by Pop Council after 10 years, which is going to be released soon, and we'll see where we are. So these are the things that I want you to keep in mind when we are discussing and opening it. So what are the challenges? Because naturally, the family planning market, I think we will be very happy to hear from people like ZAFA, from Javed Jabbar Sahib is here, for people who have been supporting market through their creative work. What do we really need to move that needle? So inadequate market intelligence for FP, which in a very simple word is that we don't know the real reasons of the failures, whether it's supply side or whether it's a demand side. So there is inadequate estimation of need. And when I say, because I keep even arguing within the larger family planning community, that unmet need is not simply demand and supply issue, because everybody, it's a supply. Some people believe it's a supply issue. You give them contraceptive, they'll use it. Some people will say, no, it's a demand issue, because they want to use family planning, but they don't have the demand. We need to start unpacking the unmet need. What does it really mean? And where does this stop a woman to use a method? So if it's a supply side, is it a quality? If it is a demand side, it's about things that she needs to know, but she's not getting the information, side effects which can make her very worrisome. So that kind of, and like I said, the youth are not counted in, so we are most possibly be under-reporting on MCPR. Then the lack of crystallization of demand for family planning. You have to look at the age cohorts, you have to look at the parity, you have to look who wants what. And it is the social behavior change communication, the SBCC, which right now is getting a lot of buzz. People are talking about it, we are talking about it. There is a whole SBCC community of practice managed by Pathfinder. So we have all of that. We have to start looking at how to create demand for young people, how to create demand for certain age group, how do we create demand for women living in rural areas, how do we create demand for those who are in employment, so things like that. Maybe more scientifically and more looking at the things. And yes, we keep hearing from commercial market, and I would love to hear more about it, is the poor return of investment. Family planning is not supposed to be a market that will give profit to the private sector. So whether it's a GP, general practitioner, it's a specialist, it's a pharma industry, it's anyone who is involved in it, from a commercial point of view, they find this is not something that will give us business. And access, I already said, access is an issue, is a huge issue in Pakistan. That's why we have, one of the reasons we have stagnant MCPR. And the one thing that hasn't changed, CPR might have moved a little bit, the unmet need has dropped down very little. So which means, and these are low-hanging fruits. You reach out to this population who has an unmet need, and you immediately pull up your CPR, but we are not able to do it. And of course, I've talked about it, abortion. Abortion is a reflection of unmet need, of unwanted pregnancy, unplanned pregnancy. And again, we are not able to intervene, but the meso market has captured very well, and we have such high numbers of meso users. Then it inadequate supply and quality of family planning service. This, I think we have discussed so many times that I don't want to take more time, because we know that the quality is missing. When the woman is counseled, she is not informed about everything, what she is expected to, what she should expect by using a method. And then when she faces that, she's not supported. And if she wants to change a method, then she is discouraged. And that's why we see so many discontinuation. And these are all quality parameters. Side effects, of course it happens, it's a medication, but it's all very manageable, which the provider has to provide support for. Next. Okay, so this is the last slide. So let's finish by this quote, why we are discussing it here. Many things, I'm sure, are not new for people like Dr. Rab sitting here, Aisha Rashid is here, Shazina is here, Zeb is here. So many people are here. But let's start looking at private sector exclusively at that time, at this time, and then see how we can have effective public-private partnership. So I want to, just close by this. Uh, Alone we can do so little, and together we can do so much. This is Helen Keller, one of the amazing champions that we have had in the history. I hope it was not too boring and not too long, and I hope it creates the good context. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Yasmin. Moving forward, I would like to welcome Andrea Baer, Senior Private Technical Advisor from USAID, to share and highlight the significance of private sector engagement in advancing family planning initiatives.
Welcome and thank you to our organizers, presenters, and participants. And Dr. Yasmin just set it up so perfectly for today's conversation. And our FHM Engage project is led by our excellent partners, including Chemonix and Pathfinder, among others, who are really dedicated in this project to market development in order to improve access, quality, and affordability for voluntary family planning, and to be highly market focused to the specific challenges of the given markets, as Dr. Yasmin so eloquently described. Key USAID principles that are so important to all of this work are really the private sector engagement, localization, and gender equity. And we're really looking forward to hearing from the market actors who are working on various aspects of both for-profit and nonprofit components of the family planning market in Karachi in the Sindh province area. So again, just a huge thank you. And again, this is our first hybrid format, which really gets to the heart of localization. And so I just want to say on behalf of global colleagues, whether in the US or Africa, that we're really pleased to be here and listen and learn from this conversation about the market conditions in Karachi and in the Sindh province. So thank you very much. And with that, I'll turn it over to my good colleague Farhan for a couple of comments. Farhan, over to you.
Thanks a lot, Cynthia. I hope everyone can hear me. Hey, everyone, my name is Farhan Yusuf, and I am the Chief of Party for Frontier Health Markets Engage in Tanzania and part of the facilitation team for the Healthy Markets Community of Practice. I think, Andrea has already said quite a bit both about the project and about the community of practice. And in the interest of time, I wouldn't, want to take much time, but I think just one element to emphasize on for FHM Engage as a project is that, a lot of one of the main principles of how FHM Engage intends to improve markets is by co-creating solutions with all the different market actors, and primarily so private sector market actors. And so the Healthy Markets Community of Practice, as is evidenced by the session and the gathering today, becomes one of those platforms where we are able to bring together private sector market actors and co-create solutions, or discuss, ponder, think about different solutions to the market challenges that have been laid out quite brilliantly in the presentation earlier on. I know you have Zahir there in your midst, who can probably do a much better job of explaining FHM Engage and with much more detail, for which I may not have the time. But then also, I think emphasizing a little bit on the Healthy Markets Community of Practice, right, that intends to highlight market development and private sector approaches, especially to support the development of family planning markets across different countries. We do monthly sessions. Usually they are virtual. This is, as mentioned by Andrea, our first hybrid session. And so we would like to invite everyone who's participating today to become members of our team. And I think, Zahir and team can share some contacts. Please do email us so we can add you to the listserv. The current modality that we use is that every month we are highlighting a different country and talking to market actors, especially private sector market actors from different countries, to see the kind of work that's being done to promote family planning through the private sector. So, I wish everyone there a great session. We are with you here online, and we will try to, on our side, me and Andrea, perhaps try to coordinate some of the questions, thought processes from the online team. And, we look forward to hearing from the different presenters there. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea and Farhan Yusuf. Moving on, then our next session is on SIN Family Planning Markets Actors Response through 5-minute rapid presentations. And for that, I would first invite ZAFA Pharmaceuticals GM Medical Affairs, Dr. Shaz Effendi, to give his presentations, please.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. A very formal assalamu alaikum to all of you. And it's an honor to be here. It's a very prestigious gathering. Many known faces. Some of my ex-colleagues are here who were with me in the pharmaceutical sectors, and we work together in various companies. And very notable personalities here. And I'm very privileged to be a part of the gathering. And right now working with ZAFA as General Manager Medical Affairs. My love affair with ZAFA is just 2 years old. So you have to bear with me, because to the best of my abilities and the knowledge I could gather the data, I've tried to plug in. But before that, I was with Hilton Pharma for over 20 years. And I was handling the local as well as the international operations. And plus, as medical affairs, it's been like last 12 years probably. So getting back to the presentation, can I have my first slide, please? And a little bit about ZAFA, who we are. So we are one of the oldest companies in the commercial sector, born in 1973. Started with just 4 brands. And as to date, we have about 450 products, and some of them are still in the pipeline. So we have our own API manufacturing unit, which is called ZAFA Chemi. ZAFA is actually a conglomerate. It's a group. One of the companies is ZAFA Pharmaceuticals. And then we have own API manufacturing unit called ZAFA Chemi, which not only supplies the raw materials to the fellow companies, but also a lot of multinational companies across Pakistan. And we have dedicated plants, beta-lactam antibiotics, then cephalosporins, then you have the soft gelatin capsule, and obviously hormone facility is one of that, where we are manufacturing the oral contraceptives, the emergency contraceptives, and the DMPA, methoxyprogesterone acetate injections. Next, please. Okay, how do we contribute? So ZAFA obviously manufactures and markets the high quality products, and as we always say, there are 3 pillars with which it stems actually. That is the availability, the affordability, and the awareness. So we are trying to working on all the 3. First, to obviously have the ZAFA's benchmark, because we are we are available and we are very affordable when it comes to the price. So next, please. Okay. Now, how do we support? As we said, that we support by the family planning by manufacturing the contraceptive brands, and that is with different NGOs and societies and platforms, by obviously offering them the services, the samples, the medical awareness camps. And we have recently pitched in with PSI. That is how I came to know about PSI, and we had done few meetings with them by rendering the services through our field force in generating interests in the general practitioners. And obviously we have been doing experience sharing meetings, the RTDs with KOLs locally, internationally, for recent updates by following the guidelines offered by local and international bodies. Next, please. The USP and the motto, obviously, this is the tagline, medicines for all. And why? Because it comes that nobody should suffer from the want of medication. Been partnering before also, as I was going through some data, that ZAFA collaborated with Futures Group, funded by DFID UK and USAID. That was way back in early 2000s, primarily for our three brands, which is Femila 28. Then we had MKIT tablet, which is again a contraceptive pill, emergency contraceptive pill, and DMPA, which is again the injectable. And I would not like to hide this, that due to the collaborations with future groups and Greenstar, ZAFA holds about 90% of the share when it comes to the oral contraceptive market. So with this, I thank you. It was really a rapid fire session, and see you again and maybe during the discussions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Effendi, for your presentation. Our next presentation is going to be from SINA by Breen Thompson, the CEO of SINA.
Thank you so much to PSI for having us here today. It's wonderful to see some of my old colleagues, people from the family planning world. I am currently working as the CEO for SINA Healthcare. While the slides start, just to give you a background, we have been in primary healthcare for the last 25 years. 38 clinical sites across the slums, peri-urban and slums in Karachi. We are about to open 5 sites in Balochistan within 2023. Dr. Sahiba ne ek baat kahi, she said that the numbers of FP, women getting FP, etc. are understated. That's kind of like our tax figures. कि हमारे taxpayers इतने हैं, you know, the number of people we should be, we are a lot less. आप बिल्कुल सही कह रही हैं कि recently in some of our clinics we have done a survey. We have 20,000 women of reproductive health coming to our clinics every month. And of that, maybe 200 are taking up MCR, modern contraception. The attitudes haven't changed. From what I used to do 6 years ago, what I was hearing 6 years ago, I'm still hearing it. So you're absolutely right, something has to change. We are doing something incorrectly, perhaps. Just a little background about SINA. I think थोड़ी सी writing वो है तो, but just to give you primary healthcare is the gateway to healthcare in any community. In Karachi especially, and in our slums, this has been often a neglected sector, which is why you have the kind of pressures you do on the tertiary care hospitals. Everything goes to the OPD as a result. When you work in a SINA clinic, you are representing, or you are a part of the community. Today, SINA has 1.5 million patients. You can keep the slides going, that's fine. 1.5 million patients. We have, so we do diagnosis, we do diagnostics because we have a state-of-art in-house lab, and we do take-home medicine. We do everything from people coming to us with anything from a cold to hepatitis screening to managing comorbidities and so on. So what we are also doing with the help of BPT or Bill and Melinda Gates is that in 11 of our clinics we're providing prenatal and antenatal services. What that just shows you our spread at the moment, and in maybe if you're invited to the next meeting, you'll see our presence appearing in Balochistan as well. We are also partners with the government of Sindh in the EPI program, and along with VPT, we just completed 600,000 antigens in less than a year. When I joined SINA, we had no family planning policy. In fact, it was not encouraged because a lot of our donors have, a lot of our donors sponsor our patients through zakat. It has taken some careful handling because having worked in this sector for a couple of years, I feel very strongly about it. Today, SINA has a policy in place. We are actively giving out contraception. We are trying to counsel women. We face a lot of resistance, but it is something that we are working on. We're looking for partnerships to change this. We want to work with the Sindh government. We want to work with any organization that wants to come and work in the communities that we work. And we want to be able to, fulfill the unmet needs in our areas. We think advocacy, we think linking family planning with economic empowerment, and we have some plans where we are linking economic empowerment with family planning and climate change. We think that might be a model that might work. We're not reinventing the wheel. We're seeing it work in other countries. We want to make sure that we can make it work in Pakistan. I'm available later if anyone has any questions or wants to take up this conversation afterwards. I'd be happy to talk to everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Amreen. Next, I would like to invite Adnan Siraj, Deputy Chief of Party and Head of Programs from PSI, to share his presentation, please.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I'll start off by telling you a bit about PSI, and then I'll move to the digital piece. So PSI is a locally rooted, globally connected organization which is working in 45 countries for over 50 years in different strategic health areas, which include FPSRH. PSI is as most of you know, is a global not-for-profit organization which is focused on encouraging healthy behaviors and delivering affordable healthcare products and services around the world. PSI Pakistan has been working for more than 30 years now with multiple donors. Our current flagship project, which is the DAFPAC project under FCDO funding, under that we have been successfully been managing this project for a decade now with our 3 implementing partners, Greenstar Social Marketing, HANS and RSPN. Over the next decade, PSI aims to reimagine healthcare worldwide by placing our consumer at the center and wherever possible bringing quality care closer to them. Moving on, just to tell you a bit about our digital strategy and our vision. I'm sorry. So PSI's digital health vision is to improve consumer health and well-being by using digital technologies to increase access and personalized deliveries. Under this, we have launched a platform by the name of VIA, and this is basically all the components which we plan to achieve under our platform. Some of them we have already completed, some are in progress, and some are being worked upon. So if you look at the consumer demand-driven side of it, we start off by a community and a youth app, followed by a chatbot. So the chatbot has already been launched. We have more than 20,000 users on chatbot. We have just started marketing the VIA platform. However, we have a very good organic reach. We are very close to launching telehealth consultation through the same platform. So what we are trying to do is we are bringing everything under one roof. So very soon, through our chatbot and through our platform, people will be able to avail telehealth consultations, and also e-commerce facilities where you can go online and you can order contraceptives which can be delivered to your home. Another component of that which we plan to bring on board is e-locator, so that on the same platform where you're there, once you have read about it, you've got the awareness, and now when you want to move to see a doctor in person, you can actually through your location, you will be advised to the nearest doctor, and we will be signposting our consumers to the nearest doctor through this app only. Then there are other services like Credit Now, Pay Later, which is one of the common forms of healthcare financing where you buy now and pay later. So we plan to launch loans for healthcare as well under the same platform, and health insurance will also be offered. So this is something we plan to do. On the other side is the workforce data-driven ambitions that we have under this platform. where we will be working on policy dissemination. There are a lot of laws which have been rolled out. However, we will be carrying these to the masses, because a very large number of youth and the masses are reaching to us through this platform. So we plan to take those laws. And there are other things as health evaluations and smart clinics which will follow. So till now it was all scripted. Now I'll speak my heart out. So moving on to the next slide. So we are trying to do things a bit differently at PSI. So very recently what we have done is we have launched different programs. One is, so through these SBCC campaigns which we are doing, we have launched a program with Patangir. It is out now. We would request all of you to go to our VIA pages and please do watch these programs. I'm sure you'll love them. We have Patangir, we have Bro Baatcheet by Ali Gulpir, which is on male engagement. And we have tried to push the boundaries a bit with this program. Our Jagah Banao campaign, that got a lot of traction, and very soon we'll be going on TV with this campaign, and very soon you'll be hearing about this on the radio as well. And one of the highlights of our achievements is we have very recently completed the first episode of a crime thriller, and we would be launching very soon. It's a crime thriller because we got to know that on these OTT platforms, one thing which is really working are crime thrillers. So we have shot this. It's ready to be rolled out. It's a crime thriller with the family planning aspect, but we have tried not to be very preachy. So in a very subtle way, we have tried to incorporate that, and I'm sure you will really feel that this is something really different and probably not tried out a lot in the sector. So we'll be going on to the OTT platforms. It's just a pilot episode, and we plan to launch an entire web series by the name of Bekhauf, which means fearless. Next slide. We have also worked on launching Makespace hackathons, which are basically through which ideas are generated by the youth, and then the top ideas, they get rewarded, and then seed money is given to them to carry out those ideas. So there are a lot of ideas on FPSRH which are out there, and there is a number of youth which are actually who have taken these ideas and moved forward. So that's my last slide. Very recently, we have conducted a game jam. So the youth is now all about gaming, and gaming is the future. So now we have launched a game jam through which we have incorporated FPSRH into the gaming field, and a lot of games on the FPSRH topic have been made, and very soon we are going to launch them as board games and through digital games as well. So that's also on the books. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Adnan, for highlighting the wonderful work PSI is doing. I would now request Dr. Aziz Rab, CEO of GSM, to come up to the stage and please give his presentation.
رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي امري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Assalamu alaikum خواتين وحضرات and the friends who are online. This is Aziz from Greenstar. In the next 5 minutes, I'll take you through a journey of what Greenstar has been doing around for last 32 years. Greenstar Social Marketing was created in 1991, and one of the founding members was PSI, who is one of the hosts this evening. He registered with SCCP and has got a national footprint. We are a hybrid of social marketing and social franchising. And when we say hybrid of social marketing and social franchising, it means that we make the products related to family planning, HIV/AIDS, nutrition, tuberculosis, anemia, calcium and vitamin deficiencies available, menstrual hygiene available in the market at a cost-effective prices. Whatever revenue that we generate, we plow back into our social franchising system, where Greenstar over the last 32 years has created an ecosystem that is providing quality service in the private sector. Now, the rationale for existence of any private sector, ladies and gentlemen, is that 70% of Pakistan's population goes to the private sector from out-of-pocket expense. So if the needle of family planning is not moving, the very first thing that we should be focusing on the private sector is that 70% of the people who have enjoyed the trust of the community, they are provided access to family planning and care. So 70% of the general population coming to these. Greenstar is the largest network in the world for providing family planning and maternal and child health services across Pakistan. About 12 years ago, we realized that talking about family planning alone will not work. So one of the experiences is that we have to combine maternal and child health. कोई भी माँ अपने बच्चे की वजह से 5-6 मरतबा किसी भी डॉक्टर की क्लिनिक में जाती है यहाँ पे. Social marketing and social franchising besides that, there are certain issues that need to be addressed immediately if the needle is to be moved. First of all, in this room, I see very few, besides me, younger people. So 60% is the youth population which is not represented. So one of the reasons for the failure is that youth is not there. Then we are talking about that woman, Dr. Yasmeen mentioned that woman whom trying to save and serve. I don't see that woman anywhere in the room. So that woman, जिसको हम सब मिलके ढूंढ रहे हैं, उसको ढूंढना होगा कि what are her real issues and solve her problems. So youth, Greenstar in the last 4 or 5 years has been working very closely with the government, and we have approached the universities where the youth resides. We are trying to create the faculties. For example, in Punjab Population Innovation Fund, we have trained in 60 universities about 600 teachers who will be rolling down family planning and reproductive health programs to 12,000 students. That's number one. Number two, we are also trying to do the advocacy we are trying to engage the largest force. I see IMS and IQVIA here in this room. Excellent. Primary care physician is the low-hanging fruit that the government needs to focus on. Primary care physician sees in one day 200 patients per day, and SINA just pointed out that that is a missed opportunity. Thirdly, that we need to do is that we need to make sure that when you are providing these youth and women at the services at their doorsteps, telehealth is another area where Greenstar is currently focusing. We need to also understand that for-profit commercial sector has to be brought in. Unless and until whatever we are trying to do to solve the family planning issues in Pakistan, it is extremely important to dismantle the disabling environment. One piece of bread, एक naan costs about 25 rupees. 55 रुपए का या 45 रुपए का condom कौन afford कर सकता है? 80% of the people from the out of their pocket pay this price, and they are willing to buy. So there is an unmet need. People want to buy, but there are certain barriers. First, for example, government has placed 18%. Everybody, all our donors and the private sector and the government sector should be doing something about removing of 18% general sales tax that they import. They have classified condoms with the likes of chocolates and perfumes as luxury items. So the people who are already tuned in want to use condoms, they don't have access. We have put duties, as a result of which 10 million pregnancies, 4 million unwanted, 28 lakh abortion, 2.8 million abortions, and our network, 32,000 service providers, Sehat Sab-Sitara network, they report teenage pregnancies is on the rise, and people are resorting to abortions, unsafe abortions in Pakistan. So the manual vacuum aspiration kit, a device which is recognized by the government and the health facilities, now costs in Pakistan about 14,000 rupees because of the import duties. So if you really want to engage private sector, you need to resolve the issue of duties put on active pharmaceutical ingredients. Local manufacturing is to be facilitated, and private sector all this family planning has to be outsourced to the har gali kuche ke mein there is a maternity home. So private sector can do the responsibility. Greenstar has managed 32,000 clinics all across Pakistan. Now it's time the high volume hospitals where the postpartum and post-abortion family planning, all that government has to do is to provide commodities and wait for it. Otherwise, we will be wasting some taxpayers' money in Pakistan on creating infrastructure or paying the salaries. So I think it is solvable. We need to focus on youth, use the technology, outsource the family planning to the private sector, and bring in for-profit sector. If it doesn't make commercial sense, nobody is going to continue it. Sustainability, and last point that I want to leave it. With PSI alone, over the last 10 years, we have created 6.5 million CYPs in the private sector. The models which have been done by the Buffett Foundation, but by the Pathfinder, by the BMGF, they are already given enough evidence. What we need to do is to take that cohorts where these have worked and scale it up. If we can leverage those programs which have been done with the support of donor, I think we will, and focus on the peri-urban slums, which is a big reality, I think we would be out of, we'll get the clock moving again. I thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rabb. I would now like to call Mr. Furqan Kidwai, founder of DAWAAI.
I have to admit it's been a learning experience for me because family planning is something I'm more of a bystander in our business. About DAWAAI, I started about 10 years ago, essentially as a pharma delivery business. The essence was very simple when we started because there was an endemic, which still is, about counterfeit medicines in the country. About 20 to 40% of the market is counterfeit. I think it's a combination of counterfeit and ineffective. 40 degrees temperature, how many pharmacies are air conditioned, maintaining cool chain is out for anyone to guess, right? So that was the premise of how we started. After many ups and downs, essentially, it was we were building out infrastructure, warehouses where we store the medicines and deliver. So it wasn't an infrastructure for shops, it was more of a back-end infrastructure. People would order. And that evolved over the years, right? And that evolved into something whereby we do telemedicine, we do home care, we do e-diagnostics. And so far, we have served about 22 million users on the platform. One interesting thing which I'd like to, I think, more relevant to this thing, and the vision has evolved from being the largest pharmacy in the country to building a very large primary care infrastructure. But this is all for profit, I have to say. But the vision was very clear that if we can create an infrastructure whereby healthcare becomes more accessible, affordable, and understandable for people. Someone else mentioned, I think, these three things as well. So that's how our sort of main thesis had been. But when I mentioned that, I think you can move on to the next slide. Well, why we did it, very simple. As I said, it was the pharmaceutical supply chain was broken. Now when we look at it, I think the entire healthcare system is broken. There's a significant undersupply of doctors. One interesting statistic I came across, College of Physicians and Surgeons have less than 1,000 pathologists registered in the country. And there are about 10,000 labs. So it's anyone's guess out there what is happening and who's testing and what results are coming out. So essentially that's where, I think you can go to the next slide. Again, someone mentioned about the out-of-pocket thing. Our whole thing was, can we cheapen the healthcare infrastructure using technology by actually achieving a scale and subsidize the economics to actually make it more affordable. So I think, as I said, we are more of a bystander and passive player in family planning. What has happened as a result in our business, because we are in a downstream normal pharmacy business, what we notice about is just a pure category commercial side of things where we do targeted marketing. Family planning products actually sell they're about 5% of our business, interestingly enough, right? We never sort of push them. We just targeted the audience, and that's all done by our technology team, which is actually building some artificial intelligence models to actually target relevant people who come onto the platform. So when we dug deep into that thing, there were three things which are clear. People like the fact that A, they can access anywhere, and about 30% of our business is from Karachi, Lahore, Islamabad. 70% is from the rest of the country, which are tier 2, tier 3 cities. And some of the names I haven't even heard of when we see on the list. And this is about talking about tens of thousands of prescriptions being shipped on a daily basis, 5,000 consults being done on a daily basis. And this is done at scale across the country, which includes family planning being sort of accessed from those areas. The second thing is discretion. People want to be able to access these products without anyone finding out. And as long as we deliver in a very subtle way, which something actually in our additional information on orders element, we see that as part of these orders, please pack them well. Right? And that is something I think which was our takeaway is pretty much the discretion and the subtlety of how it's actually pushed through rather than going aggressively come and buy family medicine items. Of course, family medicine includes the condoms that are in. They include, I think, some of the ECPs, which are almost always not available at times, by the way, I have to say. And interestingly, about 2% of our orders on a daily basis, because that's one key metric I actually challenge our team on, are abortion inducers. Every single day, Some bits of our orders are rejected because there's no active prescription, and when we look at the category, those are abortion inducers. I only learned it last week from our team. I was saying, what are these? And this is the abortion inducers, and people are not providing prescriptions for those. So the earlier comment about Dr. Saib about this abortion thing which is happening in the country, that I can relate to without actually knowing. I did not know Pakistan is one of the largest country for abortions, uninduced abortions happening, wanted abortions happening. If you go down I think the next slide, I'll share some numbers with you. So 5% of our business, again, is a passive business. We don't push. This is not our key focus area, is from family planning products across a range of products. 100 plus beta HCG tests are booked onto a platform every single day. We don't push them. We do lipid profile, we do all general diagnostic tests, right? I don't know why they are being booked in terms of either there people are checking and then going for abortion or not. I don't know. We don't know that. But this is just one pure statistic about 100, 150 tests for beta HCG are booked every single day. That's about 7 to 8% of our daily bookings, apart from A1Cs and the lipid profiles and whatnot. 83,000 plus users in the last 1 year who have bought one or the other family planning product on the platform. 60% of those have been men, 40% have been women. Now, of course, we can only deduce by what they click when they're checking out. It could be a female using some male name in the family to do so. That could be her husband's name. But these are the pure raw statistic which we have about people doing that. I think one of the key things which and I think that I was thinking right now sitting, there's one area I should go back and push on, because I think there's a significant, from a pure commercial standpoint, significant demand to push on, particularly for the fact that we have a 24/7 doctors available. I think as I mentioned, out of the doctors available, we have about like 7 to 8% of daily consults, which are about 4 to 5,000 on an every single day basis, are with about either gynecological sort of issues or about pregnancy related issues. That's the daily basis. I don't know, and I'm not privy to the information. We haven't spoken to the doctors who provide that. Is it because of family planning or potential family planning? That we don't know. But this is a raw statistic which we do on a daily basis. So some food for thought here from a pure market perspective. Not much insights on our side other than pure data. Hopefully you guys can benefit from these. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kidwai. I would now like to call Mr. Ayman Rizwan, Chief Creative Officer of Interflow Communications, to please give his presentation.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Aisha, for giving Interflow the opportunity to be here. So we're Interflow Communications. We've been in the advertising business for the last 40 years. Obviously, our group includes Interflow Communications, the advertising agency, and then also some media assets such as 3 TV channels, an FM radio station, and an on-ground events agency, which does some IPC work also. Okay. Next slide. How do we contribute to the private sector, private health sector? It's basically by creating effective awareness through media. That's what it's about for us. And I will try to share some examples with you also. How are we supporting family planning? We've been communication partners of Greenstar, of PSI, of Johns Hopkins, of ZAFA, etc. And we've launched, of course, Sati condoms. We've been part of specific programs like PEMAN and FALA in the past, which are USAID programs. We also launched Josh condoms, which was the first product that DKT launched in Pakistan. And we've partnered, as I said, with PSI as part of the USAID HCP project. And now we're proud to partner again with PSI on a completely different level with very, very interesting things being done that at least I haven't seen in the last decade or so that I've been working on the sector. So let me show you one of the examples. This is for VIA, which is a brand that we have launched to appeal to Gen Z. It's a mobile first, digital first brand. So you're not seeing, even the screen is a mobile screen that you're seeing. Please play.
दिल में जो मेरे दबे हुए सवाल है अब आंसर्स मिले मुझे मेरे हाथ में.
Okay, so we're not using a regional language. We're combining English and Urdu. We're not showing you people from a village. Why? Because there's now a huge urban population in Pakistan, which didn't exist about 3 decades ago. And this urbanization, this digitalization has all led us to realize that we can't just do conventional, or we can't do the things the same way that we used to do them maybe 2 decades ago successfully. So this is just one example. There's a lot of content, as Adnan Siraj talked about, on the VIA website and the VIA page. Please do follow us and look at that. Okay, so our USP as Interflow basically has been communication experts. That's what I can tell you, that working with all these brands, working with all these organizations, we have picked up a lot of knowledge. And obviously then we combine that knowledge with what we know working for commercial clients. So whether it is working for PepsiCo, whether it is working for Ufone, whether it is working for 4G fertilizer, everything comes into play, because you get a pulse on different types of consumers. So you get a pulse on the farmer and his family, you get a pulse on the young person, you get a pulse on the housewife. Here's another example. So we work in mass media, and I told you about interpersonal communications, digital, and also in advocacy. So notice how we're doing these very short reels, which is what attention span is now about. Yeah.
फैमिली प्लानिंग SEI या कॉन्ट्रासेप्टिव बदला है मेरा पर्सपेक्टिव.
Thank you. Next slide. Thank you again for letting us be part of this, and I hope we can talk to all of you individually also and see how we can help out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ayman. I would now like to call Dr. Ihsanullah Khan from HANS, who is serving as Chief Health and Research Executive.
Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon. Always follow up with Aziz Saab, Dr. Aziz Saab. I mean, it's a diffusion energy that we have to follow, so it damps down after that. But thank you so much. The one thing that I was, we will go rapidly, I'll finish in time. But the one thing that I was reflecting was that different languages were spoken here. To me, while having worked with the private sector, commercial sector, so-called, with pharmaceutical, with development sector, with government sector, I see that we all are speaking, the meaning is same, but maybe in different languages. So I just was recalling this song. I think most of you must have heard, I say potato and you say potato. So I mean, when you sit with the government, and that's where I wanted to begin, that government should have been here in this forum, because they need to hear it out. They need to hear. They need to see what the private sector has to offer here. And that integration is very, very important. Without integration, it will not go further. It will not go further. I can assure you, having worked for last 15 years, this is my reading. Anyways, we all are here to translate our national commitments into results and action. And HANS has been part of this critical mass for last 40 years and been delivering holistically and with inclusion, and of course fostering partnership, all kind of partnership, not only public-private, private-private, public-public partnerships, and also encouraging the agency, like Dr. Yasmin said. It's not only the women focused, but women led, and the agency where the presence of women is very, very important and critical. Please, next slide. And we have been doing it by creating new market. Now here again the jargon is same. For me, extending into new market or creating, developing a new community is almost the same. This is a flip side of a single coin. So it's just the numbers that needs to come closer. But it has been done by creating new markets and defining access, which is very important. It's been spoken here, and I'm getting an impression as if this is largely a representation of some urban niche, but that should not be the case. And I think, and I believe that this is not the case. And it is important that within the urban centers, the most of the concentration is in the slums. 60% of population is there. And also for rural, it's important that we redefine access. What do you mean by access? Like Dr. Yasmin said, when we say unmet need, what does it mean? Unpack it. We also have developed through our Mavi workers and Mavi houses a complete supply chain throughout the 20 districts that we are in Sindh and Punjab, and this means a lot. I mean, only having a product is not enough. I can understand, I've been working in pharmaceutical. The entire supply chain is essential. We have been doing it through strengthening service delivery, fostering partnership, and strengthening community involvement. That is very important. A true, meaningful community involvement, it is essential and critical to translating commitments to results. Next. So that's, I think, more than USP. That's that's the way forward that we see. That's the vision that we have to localize, integrate, sustain, and transform. For our USP, this is the top of the list. Thank you so much, Ji.
Thank you, Dr. Ihsanullah. I would now like to call Dr. Khurram Asmat, Director, Technical Service and Donor Programs from Mary Stopes Society.
Assalamu alaikum and good evening to all. I'll take a minute or so just to talk about Mary Stopes International, which is now called MSID Productive Choices, and Mary Stopes Pakistan, and then perhaps I'll go to my presentation. We work in 37 countries globally, and in Pakistan we work in 3 provinces, in Punjab and KP, and we have almost like 500 primary healthcare clinics in Pakistan, 15 outreach vans, and our major donors in Pakistan are FCDO, DFED Australia, World Health Organization, some Swiss foundations, and a North American foundation as well. We have also worked very actively in pandemic, and especially in the floods since last year, and a high number of clients we have served through providing essential healthcare services. So anybody interested in Mary Stopes, it's like working for the last 30 years in Pakistan, and globally almost like 47 years, so you can Google out. I'll most probably talk about one of the initiative which we are doing with the right now in Pakistan with the support of some critical donors like WHO, FCDO. It's all around primary healthcare and how private sector can get engaged with the public sector, and because we all know right now the large international development partners, their more focus is on health system strengthening, social behavior change communication, but the funding landscape for service delivery organizations like Mary Stopes, DKT, Greenstar, and so on, FPAP is shrinking, and I don't see anything. Even after deliver, there is no procurement by the donors. So that's a pity, because in Pakistan, I'll show you next slide, almost 80-85% of the primary healthcare is by the private sector in Pakistan. And this is a huge potential. Government mostly support like 10% of the primary healthcare. Their major spending is in the curative side, but their tertiary healthcare hospitals are catering OPD, which should not they be doing. So I have been working with some of the programs, especially the National Health Insurance Program, popularly known as Sahaswala program since 2016 in my technical capacity, and now with Marie Stopes. And that program in Pakistan has been doing some good work. Almost 50 million families are registered in this program, and they are getting inpatient services in Pakistan. Unfortunately, primary healthcare is not part of that program, which is a huge gap seen, because gatekeeping, referrals is completely missed out. And government is not able to erect more grey structure in primary healthcare. That is why private sector can play a huge role. More than 125,000 GPs in Pakistan. So primary healthcare is still not part of that national health insurance program. So services like family planning, post-abortion care, maternal health, non-communicable diseases, adolescent health, and so on, they are not part of it. So the federal government in 2018-19 started a discussions with the organization, and I was part of that discussion, and we proposed some ideas how primary healthcare can get integrated into the national health insurance program. And this is another slide. I'll just give you some, if you go to the back slide, please. I've already mentioned that 60% health expenditure are out of pocket. 80% of the healthcare facilities are private sector, so it's like estimated $89 paid annually for seeking essential healthcare at the primary healthcare level. So annually pushing 1% of the household regularly below the poverty line in Pakistan. So yeah, I've spoken to Suma, I'll take some more time. Next slide. So we started a pilot in 2021 with the funding from WHO in Islamabad. That has been completed, where the national health insurance package, which is an essential package of health services, first time in Pakistan at the private sector level, was developed, costed, and family planning, post-abortion care, medical termination of pregnancy is part of that package. So that package was slightly modified with the help of ministry and the WHO, and we implemented a pilot project in Islamabad that has been completed. We will be disseminating the results sometime in July. I'm the PI of that study. In that project, we had few facilities, intervention and control, and we catered around more than 800 families in that project. Next slide. There was a specific cost to be paid by the provider per family per year. And this is the benefit package, where you can see reproductive health, family planning, antenatal, postnatal, these services are part of that. Even delivery, low risk delivery, normal delivery was part of it. And some medical tests and medicines was also part of this. This is all costing done by the ministry themselves. MSI, MSS in Pakistan, we have developed the national curriculum of this project and this initiative that will be disseminated in July as well. Next slide. These are some of the main indicators, and one of the most important indicator was reduce the out-of-pocket expenditure, direct and indirect, of those beneficiary families. And then again, contraceptive use increase, post-abortion care increase, services quality, satisfaction, so on. Next slide. Just keep on clicking. Yeah, so in 12 months, almost 1,900 services have been taken. Over 50% of the services were general OPD, maternal health, child health, family planning services. And these are some of the graphs. You can see programmatic result, where you can see the priority of the patients coming to these facility. The first priority is mostly maternal and child health. Again, then there is a general OPD, and then some specialist referrals. So next slide. So this is my last slide. We will be doing the dissemination of this project in July. Again, knowledge management will be done through conferences, publications, abstracts. Very importantly, the results and the ideas were shared with different donors. And I'm very happy to say that FCDO have invested in this model. And after the federal Islamabad region, I have started that project scale up in Punjab with the Punjab Health Insurance Program. I'm also happy to share that we are also scaling up this same model in AJK with the AJK government as well, with the help of WHO funding. So the main idea was about, like we are all talking about the private sector role, private sector niche. It's about the project, and the idea is about transforming the market, the private sector market, especially for essential primary healthcare services. in this region through the private sector provided at PSC level to generate, demonstrate concept of domestic financing. So the government is willing to collaborate, and we have seen that potential. It took time in provinces like Punjab. Punjab has its own priorities, AJK, but after seeing the idea, the results, and I'm very happy to share that although I'm not presenting the research results of this study, but there is a significant decrease in out-of-pocket expenditure, direct and indirect, in the intervention group. So this idea has a great potential. Now the Punjab, which is 60% of Pakistan, is working with me, with MSS. We are also working with the AJK, and now we're also planning to go in KP as well. So overall, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Khurram. I would like to thank all of our presenters for giving such insightful presentations. I would now like to open the floor to question and answers, and also acknowledge and thank our colleagues who are joining us virtually. And in case they have all questions as well, so I would encourage them to unmute themselves and ask questions. So if anybody has a question from our presenter, so we can open the floor. Yeah, online participants are encouraged to raise their hands and then ask the questions, please.
I have a quick question. Every time I go to Islamabad and I meet with donors, one of the things that hits quite hard is the fact that Karachi, with a population of 25 million plus, is never on the radar for any of these programs. So all I hear again and again is KPK and Southern Punjab. I understand that's close to Islamabad, but there's a big country out here. So that's something I think needs to be addressed.
So Amreen has pointed a question to donors, but for us it's the reverse case, because the deepest investment in Sindh, and with the TCI, the Challenge Initiative, it's all about urban slums, and Karachi is very much covered by that. So, and we did SOC also, you know that, Amreen, and even at that time the idea was really to look at that population, which is not usually in the radar, like you're exactly saying, and Karachi is the biggest city with the largest slum population, and we have scaled that up through the Challenge Initiative, and our largest investment is this side, not the KP and Punjab. Of course Punjab we do with Sindh, but it's more deeper in Sindh.
Thank you, Dr. Yasmin, for reminding me. So when we were doing the SOC project, and it was totally urban, that's when we did contact SINA to, partner with us, because we know you have such an excellent network of these primary health care, but maybe you were not at that time where you are today. Yeah, you weren't. I know that. But yeah, so that was a great program, and I think, yeah, you were not ready for family planning at the time. Absolutely.
Assalamu alaikum, good afternoon. My name is Abid Hassan, and I am the project manager for Senesys Technologies in Pakistan, and thank you so much for very, very nice presentations. Dr. Yasmin, I've got 3 questions which come out of your presentation. And firstly, we spoke about Do Bache Hi Achhe, which any of us who've grown up in the 80s or the 90s relate to the tagline. Whether it was implemented and it caught on to practice is a whole other story, but we all know it. In the same way in India, they used to have a 3-line tagline as well, कि एक बच्चा अभी अभी, 2 बच्चे कभी नहीं, इतनी 2 बच्चे कभी कभी, 3 बच्चे कभी नहीं. But from the 2000s till now, we haven't really, or maybe I've missed it, but one should have seen it, that we haven't seen any such efforts come forward anyway for family planning, whether on the national level or on the SIN level. So one of those open questions is there, that why aren't we going towards that trend, again, the way the aggressive advertising was done earlier. The second was that when we speak about market intelligence and lack of crystallization of demand, so on and so forth, are there any concrete efforts that have been made between the government and the private sector and the pharmaceutical industries to get the data which is needed to show actually how much demand is in what places and how that supply can be filled? And the third is, I think right now is the most conducive environment in Sindh in order to move for a change in policies. For example, that it's only married women who are catered to or brought into the data net. And I'm afraid that it's right now or the next few years which are really conducive for this to be pushed and put forward. Otherwise, you never know which way the policies might go in the end again. So these are the only three things. Thank you.
So your only three things for my first presentation. Like, but thanks for these questions. It means you were listening and you were really taking a note. For the first question, you're absolutely right. But the way family planning field has moved, it has moved from the numbers because it's a right-based approach. It's a women's center. So the ICPD, which happened in 1994, changed the entire dynamics around how do we communicate and engage with women, with families, with couples about. So I think that was something that has resonated. All of us has grown with it, and that's why most of us have 2 children, because it was like, if you're married, you have to have 2 children if you get this right. So you're absolutely right that, yeah, there has not been a ground-breaking slogan. There is a national narrative. Javed Jabbar Saab is sitting here, who we worked with very closely, and it's a very wordy kind of a statement about keeping a balance between resources and all of that. It doesn't convert into a, that's my reservation, and Javed Jabbar Saab, please excuse me. But I feel that it doesn't, this narrative is about a kind of a principle that we follow for talking about, it doesn't hit a kind of a tagline that would hit especially the younger generation. So I'm very happy to see some of the things that PSI is doing. Maybe this needs to be scaled up, that how do we convert that into a message that attracts young people, they want to know about it. So you're right. So that's why I was saying that SBCC work has not been, it was all about supply. So let's supply, let's put everything at one place, but it has shown that it doesn't move the needle on the latent demand. It doesn't move the needle on the demand creation. So you're right, and all of us are trying to correct that, and having that kind of a jargon or a slogan at the local, at the local level, which can, of course, there are lots of impressive slogans internationally and globally, but how do we convert that in something that will resonate with our own culture, our own people? What was your second question? Because it was. Okay, yeah. So the person who should respond that well is sitting next to you. But you're right, Zahir is here. But that market intelligence was really, you're right. What we have really not been able to do well, I will not say we have failed, but what we have not been able to do well is to really keep all the stakeholders with us when we are doing any diagnostic work. Like, what we are trying to understand what has worked, what has not worked, what has moved the needle. And it's only about some of us who are always there, and some of the organization who are always there. We are missing out on a large commercial sector. We are missing out a lot. So I'm very happy that ZAFA, DAWAAI, and all of these, market shapers and influencers are here. And this is a good attempt by FHM, good attempt by PSI through Impact Hub. So I think we needed to have that kind of a community, because we haven't been able to do that. So having those, precise, like I was trying to access few days back the data about the private clinics, private hospitals which are delivering the commercial, and how can we introduce PPFP, which Dr. Rao was saying. And it's so difficult because you don't find that kind of information. So you're absolutely right. This is the kind of a work which I think is being initiated now, and hopefully it will be taken forward. Third question. Youth. Oh, so I told you this is a very long battle, and I have to admit I have failed in that battle so far. So yeah, this is something that has not been accepted, because the largest survey that is done in Pakistan is PDHS, and it used, of course, the nomenclature is MAVRA, which is Married Women of Reproductive Age. And we have not been using WRA, which is the global acronym, Women of Reproductive Age. So this is, and I think that's why it was showing that we are missing not only in the data, in capturing them, in our strategies, in framing them as one of the most important audience. So yeah, hopefully private sector can push this up much more than the public sector, and we are able to do that. But if the data is not accepted by the government, then it will not be reflected. That's the key. So I think it's an advocacy that we need to continue to do that with a very very careful tactic. Because sometimes you have to be very careful in what you are asking, and you don't want to lose what you are gaining, whatever you are gaining, just by trying to just disrupt the whole thing.
I'll just add a couple of things to the questions that you asked from Dr. Yasmeen. I think the second question that you had regarding data, one of the objectives of this Impact Hub is to bring in the private sector so that we come over here, we sit over here, and we remove our organizational hats and be agnostic and look at how do we grow this market. And in order for us to do that, the moment we take our organizational hats and put it outside and come over here agnostically, we will start talking about data. I understand that there are efforts that are being done, and it's a challenging thing to get all the data. But to the very least, the private sector that is sitting over here, if we start collating our data and start making sense out of it, we'll at least be able to unpack something. So that's one of the objectives of this group as well. I struggled a lot when I joined this sector, and I wanted to understand and get data, and I think ran across entire Pakistan, almost every organization begging them for data, and I didn't get it very easily. But I have been able to eventually put an MDA, Market Development Assessment report together. I'm more than happy to share that report with everyone in this group. I think we've already shared it, but if anyone ever needs it again, I'm happy to share that. It has robust data, quite significant data. I also wanted to add to the youth comment that you've made, and I think Dr. Yasmeen has already alluded to that it should be women of reproductive age. I would include men into this as well, boys rather. One of the biggest issue that I see is that we talk about youth and we talk about young boys and girls and including them, but we never really speak to them. And we have not tried to understand them. I have a 13-year-old. I don't understand him. I'm trying to understand him. How can we as community of practice sit over here and decide what they want, when as a mother I'm just trying to figure out that if I want him to get message A, how am I supposed to communicate with him? So one of the most important thing that we need to do is we need to start talking to young people. We need to start bringing them and asking them and understanding from them what their challenges are, and then try to give them solutions that they're going to adopt very easily. Push नहीं कर सकते उनको. They should want those things. And with that attempt, my colleague Adnan has also shared in his presentation, we're trying to do things differently. We did hackathons, we did a game jam, and we're doing these things because we want to understand how do young people want to perceive this information, how do they want to understand this information, and I want to share this because our game jam was very recent. On day one, there was a group of young boys and girls sitting together who were, trying to figure out what kind of games should they make to the problem statement. And a mentor dragged me to that room and said, all of these kids are asking this taboo, who picked this taboo topic? We can't even talk about it. How are we going to make games about it? And I went and I spoke to them and I said, this is the reason why we've picked this topic, because you guys think this is taboo. And I shared our chatbot via, and I said, just go through this, read through this, and you will start feeling comfortable. From that on day one to the last day when we had the winners announced, the winning team was a brother and sister. And the kind of conversation that they had on SRH, and the kind of open dialogue and the game things that they have put in the game was fantastic. So I think it's a very promising generation. We need to go to them. They're not going to come to us. We have to go to them.
I think it's a very interesting conversation that we are having. While Greenstar was busy doing what they were doing in changing behavior through communication, the animal out there changed. And we realized that the 60% is now, they speak a different language, they are on a different media, they are on TikTok, they are Snapchat, and I don't even know those things. And they speak a different language. So About 2 years ago, we convinced Punjab Population Innovation Fund to give us such an money, and we were evaluated for that, and Dr. Yasmin was part of it, and 30 universities were picked up, whereby we have trained about 60 teachers. And boy, that was one exercise, because Jamaat Islami and a lot of parties and a lot of people came up, and it was fuming. But eventually, once those teachers were trained, they were able to initiate, and we are talking about the likes of King Edward Medical College, NCA, and Government College Lahore, and the giants, where there are huge numbers. And I'm very happy to report that once you give them the information and the courage that their protection, the most difficult time that we had was from the senior management of the universities. They thought if these students went back home, told their parents, next day there's going to be an uproar. What the hell are you talking to our children in the universities level? But now, after having trained 600 teachers, these are now creating brand ambassadors of FPRH from among students. 12,000 students are going to trickle it down within there. They speak a different language, they'll use a different connotation, and they are doing job. So we think they are children. After 14, they are no more children. You are living with an adult in the family, by the way, and it should be respected. The way they want to communicate, as Aisha said.
My name is Imran Zakir, and I would like to ask a question from Dr. Aziz Rab. Sir, you said 18% GST, and I hope so. There is a lot of problem regarding clearing of the goods from the Pakistan customs and containers struck over there. So I would like to ask from the reproductive leaders here, they have done something to sensitize the government that they will include the FP products, reproductive products, in their essential list. Is there anything you people done in?
Sir, Nasir, not only what we did is that presented that it does not make a commercial sense for government to put 18% duty, because the saving that you are going to have for the exchequer is good for nothing. आटे में नमक के बराबर सेविंग भी नहीं होगी. फिर जब मज़े की बात ये है, IMF को खुश करने के लिए उन्होंने जो फिगर्स कम्युनिकेट कर दी थी 18% की, जब हम मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ पॉपुलेशन और हेल्थ के पास गए इस्लामाबाद में, तो हमने कहा आपके इल्म में था कि ये होने जा रहा है? उन्होंने कहा कि हम खुदा की कसम हमसे किसी ने नहीं पूछा. तो हमने कहा आप क्यों नहीं उठाते हैं, क्योंकि CPR को आप इंटरनेशनल फोरम पे कमिट करके आए हैं कि 35 से 60 तक लेके जाएंगे, और पिछले 10 सालों में सिवाय शर्मिंदगी के हर साल जाके हर 3 साल पे शर्मिंदा होकर आ जाते हैं, नहीं जी अभी नहीं हुआ, अब अगले साल कर लेंगे. उन्होंने कहा जी आप भी दुआ कीजिए और हम भी दुआ करते हैं. तो हमें आवाज़ उठानी होगी, क्योंकि 60% लोग अपनी जेब से खर्च करके फैमिली प्लानिंग की ऑलरेडी वो प्रोडक्ट जो कि 80% लोग इस्तेमाल करते हैं पूरी दुनिया में, कॉन्डम्स, खुद से ले रहा है. वो ब्रांड लॉयल है. साथी का मतलब कॉन्डम होता है ना इन पाकिस्तान. ऊशू कालाम या मिट्टी चले जाइए, आपको नेस्ले बॉटल के साथ साथी कॉन्डम मिल जाएगा. अब वो 25 रुपए का नान खरीदे या 55 रुपए का कॉन्डम में खरीदे उसको, राइट? तो आइए आज हम सब मिलकर दुआ करें. और बड़ी ज़बरदस्त बात की इन्होंने, whether we like it or not, younger people are having sex out there and getting into trouble. इस वक्त misoprostol is available on the karyana shops and panwalas easily. और मुसीबत उस पे ये है कि उसमें 3 इंडिकेशन है: postpartum hemorrhage, cervical examination and abortion. और 12 गोलियां होती हैं abortion के लिए. कोई डॉक्टर नहीं देख रहा उसको. ओपनली वो दवा हम वाइडली अवेलेबल करा दिया है, कोई 2 गोली ले रहा है, and women are bleeding themselves to complications. So I think this platform can raise a very important voice along with donors that enabling environment तो छोड़े, disabling environment जो है, duties जो हैं, taxes जो हैं, उनको ख़त्म कर दीजिए. जो लोग पहले इस्तेमाल कर रहे थे, कम से कम वही करना शुरू हो जाएंगे. आप भी दुआ कीजिए हमारे लिए.
Trust us, we raise it at every forum.
So thank you so much everyone for their questions. We would now like to call Ms. Andrea Baer for her closing remarks, and she would be joining us virtually again.
All right, thank you so much. And this has been tremendous. And I know that many of us online probably did have questions, but we wanted to defer to those in the room. Thank you to the wonderful 8 speakers. And I think it's so clear how your remarks really naturally reflected the components of market development. And I just want to highlight a few. One, and how we look at them from a USAID standpoint in terms of all these things coming together to develop markets. And one of them was actually about the last comment that was brought back up around the enabling environment. And this is something like rules and regulations, for example, that are either supportive or non-supportive of business and providing family planning services, as an example, and how import duties can directly impact sustainability and the cost to consumers. So that's one example. I also noted Dr. Azmat from Mary Stopes mentioning about health system strengthening. And I just want to note that we also very much view market development and private sector engagement as a key component of health system strengthening, because these are all mixed health systems, particularly in this environment where it was noted that 70% of populations may be getting their family planning services from the private sector. Another theme I really heard throughout, and this is certainly a theme also from a USAID perspective, is the role of primary health care, and that family planning is not a standalone service, either in terms of being the way people think about accessing their healthcare. They're often accessing their child's healthcare at the same time, or there is that opportunity. And that it's also family planning, we fully recognize, is not necessarily or typically a sustainable business offering from a standalone standpoint. And then again, a few colleagues, PSI, the colleagues from DAWAAI and Interflow, all emphasized the role of digital innovation in both information and product delivery. And those are things that we're really excited about. And again, I think across everything we heard in this short time, it really drives home the point that many actors can come together to identify and align on what the market challenges are to better serve youth, to better serve women and men of reproductive age with the products and services that they need. And certainly from a funder standpoint, we're very committed to seeing how we can facilitate better market intelligence and prompt this type of stewardship activity that you're all undertaking. So again, with big thanks from the USAID Washington team for FHM Engage and our colleague Ben Light, our co-sponsor from UNFPA, we appreciate this effort and look forward to continuing to participate. Thank you. And back over to those of you in the room.
Thank you. Before we move on to a thank you note by Ms. Aisha Lagari, we would like to present a video that we missed before playing. And now if you guys can play that video. And after that, Ms. Aisha Lagari is going to give her closing remarks and give a thank you note for everyone here.
ना बस में जगह, ना रोड पे कहीं, अरे भाई जगह बनाओ, जगह बनाओ, जगह बनाओ, जगह बनाओ। हॉस्पिटल है भरे, हर जगह है मच में, अरे भाई जगह बनाओ, जगह बनाओ, जगह बनाओ, जगह बनाओ। बाजारों में चले कंधे से कंधे, जगह बनाओ, जगह बनाओ, जगह बनाओ। दिल में सोच में, घर में होश में, अरे भाई जगह बनाओ, जगह बनाओ, जगह बनाओ, जगह बनाओ। पाकिस्तान की आबादी इतनी तेजी से बढ़ रही है कि हम कुछ भी कर लें, हमारे वसाइल कम पड़ जाते हैं।
बच्चों की पैदाइश में जगह बनाइए, मुतवाज़िन जिंदगी के लिए।
Thank you everyone for joining us today. I wanted, this was supposed to be played in Eamon's presentation, हमने कहा था बाद में चला लेंगे, but one of the reasons why I also wanted to play this was because there was a question about how, you know, back in 80s there was a slogan which spoke about बच्चे दो ही अच्छे. We do have certain campaigns like this, Jagah Banao, which are there, with effort has been put in. And I think it's important that all of us over here start looking at these things not only as a product or a TVC or a DVC made by X organization, but start looking at the message that it is giving and then start disseminating it. So we wanted to just very quickly share this as well. One more thing that I observed throughout the day today, PSI has a slogan. We very proudly say that we are locally rooted, globally connected. And as I look at this room over here, we're one of those countries, one of those high capacity countries, where you can see that its majority, everyone is a Pakistani. Leadership positions in family planning led by Pakistanis. So we may have a title of an NGOs, but we're by all means Pakistani organizations because our teams are Pakistanis and we are leaders are Pakistanis. So I think let's just remind ourselves at all point in time, we're not here for a short tenure. We're here because this is our country and we want to make a difference in our country. And we want to give better life, better future to our children. I saw one more thing today, which was in every presenter who came and presented. And I'm thankful to everyone for keeping time. It's important to have discipline in life. So thank you everyone for keeping time. But I heard in everyone's presentation that while there were presentations over here, there was passion as well. Everyone over here, when they spoke, had passion in what they were saying. They were passionate about the work that they have done. And if you have passion, and even though that, you know, some of the strategies that we are applying may not have worked as well as we want them to be, they will eventually work. Because if passion is there, you'll figure it out. You'll find a way. Us coming together, sitting over here together, indicates that we want that change. I also wanted to very quickly touch upon the need for market segmentation. I think I keep on saying this, and I think it's very important that we start looking at the market and start looking at the segmentation as well, so that we can have customized approaches for each of the market that we are serving. There was a comment about government should have been here. Yes, the government should be there in meetings, and government is a very, very important stakeholder. The idea of Impact Hub was to bring private sector to come together to see how private sector can expand its role and increase the market. We want a safe space for private sector where we can speak and discuss with each other how, you know, how we feel this market can grow. But that doesn't mean that we're eliminating government. What we should be, and we are doing, is we take notes, we take learnings from such sessions, and then we go and present it to government collectively as one unit, rather than organization by organization going and telling about the work that we are doing. I wanted to request Mr. Javed Jabbar to come and give closing notes, but you promised that you're going to speak something, but that's fine. But I do want to thank you for coming. It is presence like people like you that is constantly encouraging us. The national narrative that has been developed is something that guides us on how the communication should be, developed. And Jaga Banao campaign is, by the way, based on the national narrative. It is about balance. It is about tawazun. So when we say that, you know, we have a national narrative which is a guiding principle, we do have execution of that as well. Thank you everyone for joining us, and thank you for your openness, your questions, your discussions. And with that, I would like to request everyone to walk to that wall of promise, which your organizations and you have already provided us. We wanted to save time and not make you write, but if you can just sign that, these are our pledges that we will remind you as we have future meetings. And after that, I promise, Dr. Aziz, we're going to give you tea.
After you have done signing the pledges, I would request you all to move to the hall outside for a group photo, please.
I just wanted to pay a special thanks to one person, that I missed in my earlier, and that is Dr. Yasmin Kazi. So, Dr. Yasmin, thank you so much. And this thank you actually comes from the bottom of our heart, because when we wanted to make Impact Hub, we were clueless of how we should go about it. She's been our guiding principle since day one, and she hardly ever takes recognition for that. But thank you so much for this, for collaborating, for getting all of us together and helping us make sure that the private sector stays, and also making sure that the private sector's voice is taken to public sector, because you sit in all important meetings. Thank you.